Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Stinchfield. Outrage is ensuing amongst members of the Republican Party inside Congress, especially after this program revealed to you on the night before the budget bill would be passed that John Thune snuck in this $500,000 provision that United States senators could sue the Justice Department for spying on them, looking at their phone records without their knowledge. Now, I'm against the DOJ doing that, not just to senators, to any American. And now we're finding out that these senators could get $500,000. It was snuck in at the last minute, basically extortion to Republican members of the House that were forced to vote on this bill with this provision in it, which isn't fair to the people that were targeted by the DOJ, like J6ers and people on that Arctic frost list. Here's one congressman who's not happy, John Rose.
This, this provision is unconscionable, unimaginable, frankly. I didn't see that it was worth inflicting the harm that the shutdown was doing to the American people for another hour, another minute, really. And so that ultimately led to my vote for the CR.
You had nearly every Republican congressman that I respect want this provision out. What's good for a United States senator should be good for a persecuted American citizen. But it's not. But this is what the swamp does. John Thune did what the swamp does best. Set himself up and other senators to enrich themselves. And look, you can't use your position of power to do these things. It looks to me like that's exactly what he did here. And how do I know it was John Thune? Because the Speaker of the House blew the whistle on him.
And that's why I was so surprised when we found out about that provision. It was put in our clean CR at the last moment. I'm just be honest, I'm very transparent with you all. I was very angry about it. I was. And a lot of my members called me and said, did you know about it? We had no idea. That was dropped in at the last minute. And I did not appreciate that, nor did most of the House members. Many of them are very angry about that.
All right, look, we have real Americans who suffered at the hands of the Department of Justice. J6ers, as I mentioned, everyone surrounding President Trump, anybody fighting for him, including President Trump himself. And yet these senators say, oh, they looked at my phone records? $500,000? What about all the attorneys that face disbarment in liberal states like California, indictments against them, like our friend Christina Bobb, who appeared here the other night?
It's bad enough they put it in there, but at least if you're going to write it in, that anybody on the Arctic frost list gets a minimum of $500,000, because what they're basically saying is, oh, the J6ers, the Arctic frost, the electors, all these people, they can go sue in Washington, D.C., and they'll get a fair jury there. But for these senators, they get a minimum, statutory minimum of $500,000 for every offense. It's not equal. It's not fair.
All right, so because this bill needed to be passed, nobody could vote no. It would have had to go back to committee. It would have held this bill up for days. So here's what I say needs to happen. They need to repeal this. Instantly repeal it when they get back to doing the business inside the halls of Congress. That's the bottom line. Next big story on the hit parade, the Epstein emails that have been released, literally thousands of them. The Democrats' attempt to weaponize these emails against President Trump and Republicans is backfiring, okay? Look at this truth from President Trump. He basically calls it a witch hunt, and then he says, I will be asking AG Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice, together with our great patriots at the FBI, to investigate Jeffrey Epstein's involvement and relationship with, get ready, Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, former Treasury Secretary, Reid Hoffman, big Democrat donor, founder of LinkedIn, J.P. Morgan Chase, and many other people and institutions to determine what was going on with them and him. Trump said, hey, look, Epstein was a big-time Democrat. This is a Democrat problem, not a Republican problem. Here's Jasmine Crockett. She knows it.
The prosecution of one of his henchmen who took $50,000 in taxpayer dollars from undercover officers, I wouldn't be surprised if he sent a message and said, stop investigating. We're done with this. Epstein's dead. I don't want to hear anything else about it.
Do you have any evidence of that claim?
I have no idea. No, that's the whole point.
No. So she just spews stuff out there and hope nobody asks you, do you have any evidence about it? Truth is, they all do it in Washington. All right, so Trump now was mentioned in one of the emails, and they redacted the name. Now, they redacted the name, the Democrats, in a little devious fashion because I believe they were trying to set President Trump up to think, oh, who is this victim? Well, it turned out to be the victim that sadly committed suicide, Virginia, and she had basically exonerated President Trump before she died. Here's Caroline Levitt.
And this email you refer to with the name of a victim that was unredacted now and has since been reported on in this room, so I will go ahead and say it, Virginia Guffrey. And it was CBS's own reporting, Ouija, that recently wrote that Miss Guffrey maintained, and God rest her soul, that she maintained that there was nothing inappropriate she ever witnessed, that President Trump was always extremely professional and friendly to her.
So what is the real deal with these Epstein files? Will we ever really know? What do all these emails mean? I want to bring in now former State Department employee and executive director of the Foundation for Freedom Online. Nobody has investigated the Epstein case more than Mike Benz. Mike, great to have you back on.
Great to see you, Grant.
All right, so that's a long, open-ended question, is what is the real deal with these Epstein files? Do you even have an answer for that question?
Well, there's so much going on with it all at once. There's obviously this new document dump that came out with emails that were kind of posting your own L's in terms of what the Democrats are doing here. I'll read from one of them that I think is particularly fascinating for Democrats to try to dump at this point. This was the White House counsel for Barack Obama, Kathy Rumler, communicating in 2018 with Jeffrey Epstein. This is about the one of the court cases that they were going after Trump for. And she writes, here's a story from the New York Times. Here's a story from the New York Times that I thought you'd find interesting. The principled case for impeachment is clear. What is missing is courage. This is Obama's lawyer, the White House counsel. Jeffrey Epstein responds, I think he makes the argument that it was Trump's money, making it not illegal. This was the case about where they went after his accountants and in New York. Though he also said he only found out afterwards, and the fact, according to the indictment, was billed as services rendered and grossed up. I'm sure his accountant has flipped on him anyway. This is what Jeffrey Epstein is saying. I did talk in detail to Starr yesterday regarding indictments and how Trump can make a deal, special counsel. Clinton's trash can, yes, Starr gave me more, yeah. And then Obama's lawyer responds to Jeffrey Epstein. This is August 2018, and they would angle for impeachment just 1 year later. Of course, post Jeffrey Epstein getting indicted. Obama's lawyer, Kathy Rumler, writes, it makes no difference whether it's his money, issue is failure to disclose, plus fact that he has lied his ASS off about it makes it clear he knew it was illegal. And Jeffrey Epstein responds, you see, I know how dirty Donald is. My guess is that non-lawyers, New York biz people have no idea what it means to have your fixer flip. So this is Jeffrey Epstein working directly with Obama's lawyer to insinuate that Jeffrey Epstein might flip on Trump, insinuating that he was somehow Trump's fixer. But what this actually shows is the Democrat Party coordinating with Jeffrey Epstein kind of on the eve of his own second indictment to try to get Donald Trump indicted and impeached himself. But honestly, I think so much of where we are right now is down to the fact that there has not been disclosures from this Justice Department or Central Intelligence Agency about Epstein's role in international affairs and international statecraft dating back decades, literally dating back to the 1980s. And this is just a very deep source of frustration, because when you look at, for example, the close relationship between Jeffrey Epstein, the Clinton family, and the Ehud Barak Israeli Labor Party, it is patently clear that if the Central Intelligence Agency and the State Department were to do a sweep of all of their files, communications, records, a simple name trace of Jeffrey Epstein's name within CIA and State Department files, the raft of the voluminous scale of the documentation, I think, would be enormous. The State Department rented out a physical property to Jeffrey Epstein personally in the 1990s. They obviously diligenced him before. You and I can't just get the State Department as our personal landlord after seizing a mansion from the government of Iran. I mean, to say nothing of Epstein's work doing Iran-Contra with both the U.S. and Israeli side of intelligence through the Adnan Khashoggi link, or through what was being done during the Oslo Accords in the 1990s between Bill Clinton and Ehud Barak when he was the prime minister there, to Jeffrey Epstein setting up the Clinton Global Initiative, and she goes on to be Secretary of State. But for some reason, they are not pursuing this lead, and it is maddening to watch from the outside.
Well, I think what's going to happen is if they pursue that, exactly what you're laying out will happen. They'll connect Epstein to all of those things. So two things as you spelled this out. One, I think it's stunning to the core that Barack Obama's attorney is communicating with Jeffrey Epstein. Everybody knew Jeffrey Epstein's problems and issues in 2018. The fact that the president's own attorney is communicating with him in cahoots to try to sink Trump in this little game they're playing is absolutely stunning. The other question of this, as you spell this out, I always try to figure out, where did Epstein make his money? And I always thought before all this happened that, oh, well, he was blackmailing people. He was, had all these billionaires coming in, and he'd get them sleeping with young girls, and he'd blackmail them, and that's right. I don't see that's where he got his money. So now I'm falling back on, was he getting his money from the CIA? Was he a high-paid informant where they were paying him hundreds of millions of dollars to, I don't know, do whatever foreign dirty work they wanted him to do?
As I see it, based on what I consider to be a quite extensive deep dive into the source materials, but admittedly it is speculation until we get internal files, I see Epstein as being one of many, many characters who for decades have played this role as a financial fixer that are concentrated within the hedge fund, commercial banking, private equity, and debt investment spheres that operate independently on the one hand as financiers, but do deals that profit both themselves and advance, say, the statecraft or commercial interests of folks within federal government agencies, so that they can essentially do two things. They can operate their own independent empire, while occasionally, when it benefits both himself and the intelligence agency or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, or in our case, the U.S. State Department, can move funds covertly and discreetly, and can also organize large pools of donor money to facilitate a transaction that may be seen to be in U.S. national interest or national security interests. Right. And this appears to be the relationship that Jeffrey Epstein had since 1980, when he went out on his own after being at Bear Stearns and connected at a very deep and personal level to the CEO of Bear Stearns. And you have this statecraft web that stretches from the U.S. to Israel to Saudi Arabia to the U.K. to France. These are all transatlantic allies. Yeah. And there's a lot of intelligence sharing. And you don't know who the junior and senior partner is on any particular transaction, but that is why we have to start here at home with what our own files show.
And you don't know the senior partner because that's all by design. They were trying to hide this chain of where all this was going and coming from. But I think the answers are within our own government. I think they're there. Last question for you. I believe this latest email dump, from everything that I've read, the Democrats are desperate to hang Trump with this. Everything seems to vindicate Trump, including the email you just read. It seems to be like there's nothing there to get Trump on, and everything they do seems to me in the end is a Trump vindication in all of this. Your thoughts, Mike? Last word.
I think Democrats have done the polling, and I've seen way too many high-level Democrats talk openly about how there is a split within the Republican base over the Epstein issue, and this is a wedge that can be used to drive a wedge issue that can drive different factions of the MAGA base apart, demobilize them ahead of the 2026 midterms and 2028 election. And I think that Democrats are playing brinkmanship with the Epstein issue, but will not play full chicken because their own party bigwigs and financial overclass is deeply tied to Epstein himself. And that includes, even last night, I did a private stream for my subscribers going over Jeffrey Epstein's links, not just to Larry Summers and to Hillary Clinton and Ehud Barak on the Israeli side, but even to George Soros portfolio companies like Rio Tinto. And so you have this big web. What they want to do is they want to bark loudly, which on things that are, in some sense, fair criticisms. The failure to disclose, of course, when they were in power under Obama, when they were in power under Biden, the Democrats did nothing on this because they know what's inside them too.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Mike, the only place people are going to get insight like this is wherever you are. And we're grateful you come on tonight because most of the big networks aren't breaking it down like this. And we appreciate you spending some time with us. As always, keep up the great work and keep us posted, my friend.
You too. Have a great weekend.
Absolutely. All right, folks, I want to turn now to another Democrat that is in hot water. We had Letitia James with the mortgage nonsense. Remember the AG in New York? We got Adam Schiff, the senator from California. Oh, his primary residence is in D.C. No, it's not. It's in California. Oh, boy, well, you're in trouble. Now, we got Eric Swalwell. Bang, bang, fang, fang. Remember him? The guy that was sleeping with a Chinese spy, okay? He now claimed, apparently, the allegation is, that his $1.2 million place in Washington, D.C. is his primary residence, of course, to get a favorable interest rate there. But apparently, according to Joel Gilbert, who was on War Room this morning, he's got some other problems, too, which leads me to ask, where is all the money coming from for the House?
As I looked at his financial disclosures since 2011 when he entered Congress, he still has not paid off his student loans. He still has the same debt to American Express, Chase Bank. He's a financial disaster.
So he hasn't paid off his student loans. He's got credit card debt out the wazoo, and he gets a $1.2 million house in Washington, D.C. on a $175,000 salary as a member of Congress. None of it adds up to me. But he says it's false.
These allegations are false, just like the allegations against Adam Schiff are false, and Letitia James are false, and Lisa Cook are false.
You know, those other people, it's their applications. It's pretty simple. You either checked the box or you didn't. I want to bring in now to discuss this out on the Morning Answer, AM 870 in Los Angeles. Jennifer Horne is with us. Jennifer, welcome to the program, as always.
I love seeing you. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Jen. So you are very familiar with Swalwell. He's a constant fixture out in California. What do you make of this story? I can't take it that you're probably surprised.
No, you can't. It's always the ones who are the loudest and who were throwing stones at Donald Trump who have found themselves in their own legal trouble. And here's why this is really interesting. So, yes, he is in trouble for committing mortgage fraud, but he's got a real problem. He either committed mortgage fraud by saying his primary residence is in Washington, D.C., and he really lives in California, or he is not eligible to be representing California in Congress if he really lives in Washington, D.C. And it's pretty simple to find out. There isn't one record that shows him even with a residence in California. At least Shifty Schiff was smart enough to have like this 500 square foot apartment that he keeps in Burbank, so he can at least try to pretend that he's got a place. But there is nothing linking Eric Swalwell to the state of California. And what's really extra disturbing is the story about his debt. Look, we love to laugh. You and I have laughed a long time about Fang Fang. And it's something that Eric Swalwell has never really truly answered for. But if he is in the financial trouble that we think he is, this should be pretty disturbing. Mortgage fraud may be just the tip of the iceberg. If he's associating with Chinese spies, they would see him as vulnerable if he's got no money.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you wonder, do they still have the hook in him, which I wouldn't be surprised. But I want to go back to what you said. So there's no record of him having a residence. How do you run for office in California without having someplace to live. I mean, is he using a mailboxes, etc.?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't even know if he's got a P.O. box. It's unreal to me. And, you know, admittedly, we pay attention to the big stories with Eric Swalwell, but I have always focused on Adam Schiff because he was my congressman for a long time. And I used to scream. You remember this. I used to scream about how Adam Schiff never actually lived in the district. But again, he had an apartment. So there are people now who are making a case that Eric Swalwell may not be eligible to serve in Congress if he did indeed only live in Washington, D.C., which is what it seems like. And this just shows you the arrogance of the Democrat Party in California. They think they can get away with absolutely everything, and they will go unchecked.
Well, that's the argument that I originally made on Adam Schiff, that you can't have it both ways. If you live in D.C., then you're ineligible to be a senator from California. If you live in California, well, then you can't have your primary residence in D.C. Swalwell faces the same thing here. Let me play one more clip from Swalwell, cut 17, guys.
This is really about Donald Trump going after his political enemies, and no one has been a more vocal critic than me. And as you mentioned, I have one of the only remaining lawsuits against Donald Trump for his role on January 6th. I don't wake up every day going to work to fight Donald Trump. I fight for Californians. He just happens to get in the way.
Jen, I'll say this. If you're not a sitting United States congressman, probably nobody figures out your primary residence in D.C. versus California. But you are, and you have to be held to a higher standard. I mean, anybody that runs for office knows this. This is what is going to happen. If you did it, you did it. It doesn't matter about who's coming after you. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I want to drink what he's drinking. Can you imagine this guy passes gas on TV, gets caught with a Chinese spy. He gets drunk and starts screaming at people in a restaurant, gets caught on camera. This guy is like a bad actor. He's not a good dude, yet he still is out there saying, oh, this is all about Trump, all about Trump. It's like the only song that they know on the radio that runs through their head. These people are absolutely insane. And it's nothing about retribution. This is about whether or not you lied on your mortgage forms, whether or not you actually live in the state of California. It should be simple.
Yeah, it is. It should be that simple. It never is, though, is it? Jennifer Horne, at Jennifer Horne is where you can find her on X. Thank you. As always, good to see you.
Great to see you.
All right. So you have a great weekend. Real quick, Andy Biggs said this about Swalwell. I just think I'd play it because it's pretty funny.
You know, I don't want to gloat or crow, but, you know, Eric Swalwell is his own worst enemy, I think. I just don't think he gets it. You know, I will let the process play out in court, but Eric Swalwell is he could be a nicer person. Let's just put it that way.
Way to go, Andy Biggs. I couldn't agree more. All right, folks, listen up. Of all the cell phone providers out there, only one stands for freedom, and that's Patriot Mobile. For over 12 years, Patriot Mobile has fought for our rights while offering exceptional nationwide service across all three major networks. Join hundreds of thousands of Americans supporting causes they believe in by switching to Patriot Mobile. It's easy. Activate in minutes, keep your number, phone, or upgrade. Their U.S.-based customer service team is ready to help. Just call 972-PATRIOT or visit patriotmobile.com/RAV. Use that promo code RAV for a free month service, and make sure you tell them that Grant Stinchfield sent you. All right, a radical leftist judge in Chicago is ordering the release of hundreds of criminal aliens. That's right, the release. We'll talk about it next.